The jazz curled around the room like cigarette smoke, lazy, slow, and seductive. At Velvet Room, an upscale lounge tucked into the edge of Atlanta's downtown nightlife district, the lights were low, the liquor was expensive, and everyone was pretending not to be desperate. It was a Thursday night, the kind of evening where loneliness wore cologne and bad decisions disguised themselves as fate. And then she walked in. Red dress. Blood red. Silk. No jacket, no handbag. Just hips that moved like smoke and a pair of black stilettos that didn't click, but whispered across the floor. She didn't glance around nervously like most women who came alone. She didn't fake a phone call or order a drink in a hurry. She walked like she had nothing to prove, and nothing to fear. At the bar, Marcus Bell noticed her immediately. Everyone did. But it was Marcus who she chose. He was 43, tired around the eyes, and nursing a second bourbon he didn't need. He wore a pressed shirt that he hadn't ironed himself and checked his phone every 5 minutes, like it held the answer to why his marriage failed. It didn't. His ex-wife, Vanessa, had remarried last spring. His daughters called less than they used to. He wasn't lonely, he told himself. Just alone. So when the woman in red took the stool beside him without a word, he nearly forgot how to swallow. "Waiting on someone?" she asked, her voice honeyed but low, like it had seen things. He shook his head, half smiling. "No. You." She turned, looked at him fully. Her eyes were dark, but not empty. More like bottomless. Her lips curved slightly, enough to hint at a smile, not enough to be kind. "I don't wait for people." Her drink came, a red wine, no label, and she raised the glass slightly before sipping. Marcus tried not to stare. Her skin was golden, untouched. Her collarbone was a perfect sculpture. Her scent? Something floral. But not cheap. Definitely not cheap. He didn't ask for her name. She didn't ask for his. It wasn't that kind of night. They talked, but not like strangers. She asked if he'd ever been in love, and he lied and said not in a long time. She told him she hated small talk, and he dropped it. She asked if he had regrets. He nodded. She didn't ask what they were. By 11:30, his hand was resting on her thigh. By midnight, they were in the back of an Uber, her lips pressed to his neck, her breath in his ear like sin. Marcus's apartment wasn't far, just 8 blocks away, 3rd floor walk up. He fumbled with the keys. She waited. The hallway light flickered as they entered, but she didn't flinch. Instead, she wandered into the living room like she'd been there before, touching nothing, observing everything. He poured them another drink. She didn't take it. Just stood there in the red dress, watching him. "You nervous?" she asked. He laughed too quickly. "No. Should I be?" She tilted her head slightly. "Sometimes men should be. But they never are." And then she smiled. They didn't make it to the bedroom, not at first. It started on the couch. Then the floor. Then finally the bed. She was everything his loneliness had fantasized about and everything his soul should have run from. The kind of woman who made you forget your ex-wife's name. The kind of woman who didn't make a sound when she climaxed, just stared into your eyes until you looked away first. Marcus never asked where she came from. Never wondered why her phone never lit up. Never questioned why she didn't seem tired by 3 a.m. By 4:15, they were both asleep. Or so it seemed. The next morning, sunlight spilled through the blinds like an intruder. But the silence was heavier than usual. No birds. No cars. Just the smell. The building manager got the first complaint by 10:27 a.m. The tenant next door thought maybe a pipe burst, or that someone had left out garbage. By 11:02, the manager was knocking. No answer. He used the spare key. What he found stopped him cold. Marcus was lying in bed, fully naked, the sheets twisted around his legs. His mouth was slightly open, as if frozen mid-laugh. His hands were folded neatly over his chest. He looked peaceful. Too peaceful. But the smell, God, the smell. His body was already decomposing. His fingertips were dark gray. The skin at his temples had begun to slough. His chest bore faint discoloration, almost bruise-like, but there were no visible injuries. No blood. No sign of struggle. Just one wine glass on the nightstand. And the woman in red? Gone. As if she had never been there at all. Police arrived within the hour. The coroner followed. Time of death, estimated between 6 and 7 a.m. But the state of the body didn't match. Decomposition that advanced usually took a full day, 2, even. Not 3 hours. Not unless something accelerated it. By 3:45 p.m., detectives were interviewing neighbors. No one remembered seeing her. No one knew a name. No fingerprints. No DNA. The sheets were clean. The wine glass, wiped. But Marcus's phone showed a single text, sent at 5:13 a.m. "She's unlike anyone I've ever met." That was the last thing he ever wrote. And from that moment on, every man in that lounge who remembered the woman in red began to wonder, what if she'd looked at me? Because Marcus Bell wasn't just a victim. He was a warning. It was the smell first. Not the kind that lingered from cheap takeout or forgotten laundry. No, this was heavier. Pungent. Sour and sweet in the most unnatural way. A mix of something burning and something rotting. The neighbor in apartment 3B gagged as soon as she cracked open her window. She had 2 kids, couldn't risk them breathing whatever that was. She called the building manager. He arrived 20 minutes later, grumbling about how people needed to learn to take the trash out. But when he unlocked Marcus Bell's door, everything went quiet. Inside the apartment, the air was thick. Too warm. Not a light was on, but the heat clung to every surface like fog. Marcus's living room was untouched. No signs of a struggle. No broken glass or upturned chairs. Just a half-empty bottle of wine on the counter, and a single-used glass next to it. The remote was still pointed at the TV, which had gone to a black screen hours ago. But it was the bedroom door, cracked slightly open, that pulled the manager in like a magnet. He pushed it gently. What he saw stayed with him forever. Marcus Bell was lying in bed, completely naked, arms resting at his sides as if he were just sleeping. But his skin, it was changing. Discoloring. Blotches of dark purple had bloomed across his chest, and his fingertips were black as coal. His lips were split open at the corners, but there was a faint, eerie smile frozen on his face, like he'd died in the middle of a pleasant dream. Or a nightmare. The building manager backed out slowly, shaking. He didn't call for an ambulance. He called the police. When the medical examiner arrived, she was immediately puzzled. "Time of death?" the officer asked. "Hard to tell," she muttered, examining the peeling skin around Marcus's mouth. "But, it's fast. Too fast." The AC was off. The thermostat read 79 degrees. Warm, but not enough to explain the rapid decomposition. Marcus had only been dead for a few hours, maybe less than 12. Yet his skin was separating from muscle. His pupils had clouded. Blood had pooled unnaturally under his back in dark patches that suggested something toxic. But there were no signs of trauma. No needle marks. No wounds. No bruising. His hands were clean. Fingernails unbroken. He hadn't fought. He hadn't run. It was like his body simply gave out. The strangest detail? The mattress. It was soaked, not in blood, not in sweat, but something clear, slick, and sticky. Samples were collected, but no one could say what it was. Detectives interviewed neighbors all morning. One woman remembered seeing a woman in a red dress entering the building around 11 p.m. Tall? Short? They asked. She was elegant, the neighbor whispered, hesitating. Like someone who didn't belong here. Hair up. Red lipstick. Could have been a model, maybe. I didn't see her leave. None of the cameras in the building worked. Of course. The front desk didn't recall any visitors. No guest logs. The woman in red had arrived like a ghost. Police dusted for prints, only Marcus's. The wine glass? Clean. Lipstick smudge, but no identifiable prints. The wine had been laced, with something untraceable. A substance not yet on record. The woman in red had come, seduced him, and vanished, leaving behind nothing but decay and questions. Marcus's autopsy offered no clear cause of death. His organs were inflamed. Liver scorched. Lungs collapsed, as if he'd drowned on the inside. But there was no water. Just heat. His internal temperature at time of death? 107.8 degrees Fahrenheit. Like he was cooked from the inside, the examiner whispered. Toxicology was no help. Blood work revealed traces of alcohol and mild sedatives, but not enough to kill a man. Not enough to explain the advanced rot, or the seared insides. It was as if something had bloomed inside Marcus overnight. Like his body had become a furnace. Whatever it was, it hadn't just killed him. It had devoured him. Marcus's ex-wife, Rochelle, was brought in for questioning. She hadn't seen him in months, but cried when they told her. He wouldn't just hook up with anyone, she said through tears. He had trust issues. Ever since our divorce. And with the kids, he was careful. But his texts told a different story. Police pulled his phone records. At 10:52 p.m., Marcus had received a text from an unknown number. Red or white? He responded. Red. Always. A heart emoji followed. Then, I'm downstairs. That was it. The number was a burner. No name. No social media. No trace. The woman in red had planned this. And she had done it before. Investigators just didn't know it yet. The press caught wind quickly. Mysterious death of local father leaves investigators baffled. Rumors flew. Was it an overdose? Some freak allergic reaction? Or something darker? But the cops weren't talking. Not until they knew what they were dealing with. Marcus Bell's funeral was quiet. His children sat in the front pew, confused, staring at the closed casket. Because what no one said aloud was that Marcus's body had decomposed so fast, so violently, it couldn't be shown. Not even to family. Whoever the woman in red was, she hadn't just killed Marcus. She'd erased him. The timestamp read 5:12 a.m. Marcus Bell's apartment building was still wrapped in darkness, the kind of deep, early morning quiet where the city holds its breath. Most tenants were asleep. Only the security cameras, old, grainy, barely functional, witnessed her exit. She didn't rush. She didn't hide. She simply stepped out through the side entrance, cool and deliberate, like she belonged to the shadows. She wore a long red satin coat, cinched tightly at the waist, and her heels clicked lightly across the pavement. Not a trace of panic. Not a glance back. Even as she walked directly beneath the only working floodlight, her features stayed blurred, not by motion, but by something far more precise. Intentional distortion. The footage glitched, pixelated. Only her silhouette remained sharp. And haunting. When detectives reviewed the footage later, they froze the frame and stared. This ain't a tech issue, one muttered. That's deliberate. She didn't want to be seen. They tried everything, AI enhancement, contrast balancing, frame isolation. Still, her face refused to come into focus. As if the camera itself had been manipulated. But they caught one crucial detail. As she exited the building, she turned slightly toward the lens, almost like she knew it was there. Her lips curled into a faint smile. And then she was gone. A woman named Dana, who lived on the second floor, later told investigators she'd caught a glimpse of the mysterious visitor that night. Just after 11 p.m., while sneaking a cigarette by her kitchen window, she noticed a woman in a red dress standing near the mailbox. She was beautiful, Dana recalled, almost embarrassed. Tall. Skin like honey. Long legs. You couldn't miss her. Did she say anything? Dana nodded. She asked if I had a lighter. Said her name was? Janelle, I think. Or something like it. But she didn't even smoke. That name, Janelle, became the only lead detectives had. But there was no matching ID, no social media accounts, no DMV hits. When they pulled the visitor log Marcus had written the night before, they saw her name listed as Janelle Davis. She'd written her phone number next to it, area code 347, but when officers dialed, the number rang twice and disconnected. It was another burner. The address she listed? A high-rise in Midtown. Detectives drove there the next day. A doorman in a sharp blue blazer greeted them. Does a Janelle Davis live here? They asked. He shook his head. Never heard of her. They showed him a blurry still from the video. His expression didn't change. Sorry, he said. Doesn't ring a bell. By the end of the week, the trail was ice cold. No fingerprints. No usable footage. No known associates. No motive. That was, until the second body turned up. This time, the call came from a small motel off I-85, 15 minutes from Marcus's building. The cleaning staff had found a man in his early 40s sprawled on the bed, fully nude, arms laid gently at his sides. His face was slack, lips cracked, a thin smile stretching eerily across his jaw. But the rest of him told a different story. Skin peeling. Fingertips blackened. Pupils clouded over. A sheen of mucus-like liquid soaked the sheets. The same smell, the rot, the acid, the heat, filled the room like a second presence. There were no wounds. No blood. Just the exact same signs of accelerated decomposition. The coroner said, again, it was unnatural. Organs blistered. Internal temperature 108.3 degrees Fahrenheit. Death had arrived without violence. Without resistance. Like a flame igniting in a closed jar. And just like Marcus, the man had a wine bottle on the table. One glass. Red lipstick smudged on the rim. No ID on the woman. No fingerprints. The motel security footage told the same story. She came alone. She left alone. But this time, it was a different woman. Not taller. Shorter. Hair worn curly. Same red dress, same coat. Same blurred face. Could be a disguise, one officer said. Or a wig. Or not the same person at all, another replied. But then why the same MO? The detective flipped through the file slowly. No. It's her. Different body. Same killer. The motel witness, a man working the front desk, had seen her up close. She gave me chills, he confessed. Not because she was rude or anything. She smiled, was polite. Just, her eyes, man. I don't know how to explain it. Like she was looking right through me. He remembered her name on the check-in form, Monique Rivers. Another fake. Another burner number. Another dead man. 2 victims in 7 days. No motive. No sexual assault. No theft. Just intimacy and death. The FBI joined the investigation. They started connecting dots, cases buried in cold files, unexplained deaths from across state lines with eerily similar patterns. Each victim male, found naked, smiling, rotted from the inside. No trauma. No suspects. Always a woman in red. Always a missing name. In Baton Rouge, a teacher. In Chicago, a dentist. In Atlanta, a youth pastor. All died in the same haunting way, no struggle, no witnesses. And each case had been quietly shelved, written off as undetermined natural causes. Until now. Someone, or something, was moving from city to city. Killing with purpose. But never leaving a trace. She's a ghost, one agent muttered. A ghost in red. Back in the city, detectives searched Marcus's phone again. His messages to the number labeled Janelle were flirty, teasing. She'd responded with one-liners. Suggestive, but never personal. There was one curious message, though. The night they met, at 9:46 p.m., Marcus had texted. "You're not what I expected." She replied, "I never am." That message came from a server routed through Belize, bouncing off at least 4 continents before reaching Marcus's phone. It was deliberate. Cloaked. Professional. And then there was the final text, at 5:13 a.m., 1 minute after she left his apartment. "You'll remember me." But Marcus never got the chance. And now, another man had joined him, another nameless victim claimed by the woman who vanished into the dawn, leaving nothing behind but whispers and skin that boiled from the inside out. No one knew her real name. Not yet. But the red dress was becoming a signature. And death, her calling card. Dr. Alyssa Morton had seen a lot of strange things in her 15 years as a toxicologist for the Atlanta Medical Examiner's Office. Overdoses, intentional poisonings, designer drugs with names even she couldn't pronounce. But when Marcus Bell's autopsy report crossed her desk, she paused. It wasn't the cause of death. That was the problem, there wasn't one. The man's organs were shutting down, yet there were no signs of trauma, no internal bleeding, no visible injection sites. But his nervous system had been obliterated, as if it had short-circuited in his sleep. Something had attacked his brain and his spinal cord and shut it all down, gently, silently, and with precision. Like it knew exactly where to go. After days of combing through microscopic tissue samples, Alyssa finally found it, a whisper-thin trace of tetrodotoxin. It was the kind of poison that didn't belong anywhere near a Georgia bachelor's apartment. It's found in pufferfish, specifically the ovaries, liver, and skin of certain species native to the Indo-Pacific. Just 1 milligram could kill a grown man in under 30 minutes. But here's the catch, tetrodotoxin doesn't act like most poisons. It doesn't cause foaming, spasms, or blood. It creates calm. Paralysis. The victim's breathing slows. the heartbeat weakens. And then, it stops. What disturbed Alyssa most was how the neurotoxin was administered. Not swallowed. Not injected. Absorbed. Traces of the compound were found on Marcus's lips, neck, and fingertips. This wasn't just a murder, it was intimacy weaponized. Death wrapped in seduction. Police brought in specialists from the CDC and DEA, thinking maybe it was a new street drug. But the answer came from the oldest place imaginable, an obscure Japanese scroll documenting female assassins of the Edo period. They wore poison garments. Touched men, kissed them, and watched them die slowly as the sun came up. Modern version? The woman in the red dress. Detectives scanned Marcus's apartment again. They searched for anything out of place: skin oils, fibers, perfume oils. One officer found a crimson thread beneath the bedsheets, barely visible to the naked eye. It matched a designer silk blend imported only in limited releases. High-end. Expensive. It was the kind of material that someone might lace, with poison, and wear for one purpose only: sex. Then murder. But why? A week after the toxicology discovery, the Atlanta PD reopened the motel case. The man found dead with the same decomposition pattern, the same blackened fingertips. Different woman, but something about the way she left the room, cleaned the glasses, wiped the doorknobs, it was professional. It didn't take long before detectives started seeing patterns. Both victims had no active enemies, no financial disputes, no suspicious bank transactions. But both had accounts on niche dating apps, apps that required private referrals. Both had exchanged suggestive texts with someone under the username VenusKiss21. They tried tracking the account, but it was routed through a proxy server bouncing off Romania. The photos were fake, AI-generated. The bios were vague but strangely poetic. One said, "Your last night should be your best." Another read, "Look for the red dress. She'll find you first." By now, the case had moved out of local jurisdiction. A joint federal task force was assembled under the quiet heading of Operation Scarlet. They believed VenusKiss21 wasn't just one woman, but a network. A group of trained killers using sex as a weapon. Coordinated. Invisible. Possibly hired. And if that was true, Marcus Bell had never stood a chance. Detective Lena Whitford couldn't shake the image of Marcus's face in the body bag. The strange smile. The way his hands had been positioned, like he'd died mid-reach. She'd been with the department for over a decade, and she knew a peaceful death when she saw one. But this? This was something else. She took a closer look at Marcus's texts to VenusKiss21. One message stood out. "You're different from the others. You know what I need." Others? Lena dug deeper. She found encrypted messages, a trail of conversations, brief, coded, clinical. Like scheduling appointments. Then she noticed something strange. Marcus had transferred $3,000 to a crypto wallet 3 days before he died. The memo? Consultation. This wasn't a casual hookup. This was a transaction. Further analysis uncovered similar patterns in other recent deaths across the country. Chicago. Baltimore. New Orleans. All men. All single or divorced. All found dead within 12 hours of a date. All with that same smile. The poison wasn't just about killing. It was sending a message. Back at the forensic lab, Dr. Alyssa Morton ran another test, this time on the silk thread recovered from Marcus's bed. It was soaked in something faint, nearly undetectable. A pheromone compound. Engineered. Synthetic. Designed to arouse, then paralyze. The poison, Alyssa realized, wasn't just on the woman's skin. It was in the fabric of the experience. Whatever, or whoever, this network was, they didn't just kill. They seduced their targets, made them feel wanted, desired, even loved, and then they vanished into the dawn, leaving only perfume and questions behind. Police interviewed survivors, men who claimed to have met a woman in red but weren't killed. Some couldn't recall anything. Others described her as hypnotic, warm, like a dream I never wanted to wake up from. But none of them knew her name. None of them remembered her face. Just the red. The FBI flagged the username VenusKiss21 across multiple dark web forums, some erotic, some sinister. Posts about the art of a clean kill, feminine power, biosensory warfare. But one post chilled them to the bone. It read, "You want him to die happy? We're red." They were no longer looking for a woman. They were hunting a doctrine. And behind it, someone, or something, far bigger than anyone imagined. As Marcus Bell's children prepared for a funeral, and police quietly notified another victim's family, the woman in red disappeared again. Somewhere, another man was texting Venus Kiss 21, thinking he was about to fall in love. But she wasn't a fantasy. She was a weapon. And he wouldn't live to tell the story. The breakthrough came not through fingerprints or blood work, but Wi-Fi. Marcus Bell's smart TV, still logged in, pinged a suspicious IP address just hours before his death. A digital crimes analyst flagged it, not because it was criminal, but because it was untraceable. A proxy chain layered like Russian nesting dolls. But one anomaly cracked the case open. A glitch in a VPN server in Belarus revealed an alias, Venus Kiss 21. A user profile. A digital ghost. And once the task force dug deeper, they realized they were staring at something far larger than a lone killer. She wasn't working alone. A secret forum on the darknet, only accessible through an invite system buried behind layers of encryption. Its homepage featured only a blood-red rose and the phrase, "For those who deserve silence." Inside, investigators discovered the digital graveyard of over 20 male victims, all eerily similar. Posts written in careful, poetic code. Profiles of men, screenshots of their social accounts, job titles, addresses. Attached were videos, women practicing seduction techniques, poisoning methods, and psychological manipulation. Each had a code name. One stood out, Janelle, also known as Sister Rose 13. The women called themselves the Black Widow Network. They weren't prostitutes. They weren't scam artists. They were executioners. A syndicate built not on revenge, but ideology. The targets were chosen carefully: affluent, divorced, emotionally vulnerable men who had histories of domestic abuse, allegations of assault, or child neglect, often dismissed by the legal system. To them, these weren't innocent victims. They were unfinished business. Each woman had a file. Real names redacted. But details chillingly precise: military backgrounds, pharmaceutical knowledge, experience in undercover sex work. They were trained. Some were ex-cult members. Some had past trauma. All were broken in ways that made them dangerous. The poison? Tetrodotoxin, found in pufferfish, almost undetectable in autopsies, especially when administered through mucous membranes or broken skin. Applied with precision during intimacy. They didn't need to stab or shoot. Just linger, seduce, and vanish while their victims slowly suffocated from the inside. What tied them together wasn't greed. It was control. 5 confirmed deaths. Marcus Bell was the third. The others? A tech CEO in Atlanta. A retired judge in Miami. A university dean in Richmond. Each one died in bed, found with a smile, and 0 signs of forced entry. 2 had red lingerie left behind. 1 had a rose burned into his skin with acid. FBI profilers believed these weren't crimes of passion, but ritual. And the deeper they searched, the more terrifying it became. Messages exchanged in code referenced cleansing, ashes of men, and the reward of silence. There were training logs, mission updates, and encrypted group video chats where masked women recited pledges to a leader known only as Mother Eve. Was Janelle their leader? No. She was a disciple. A favorite. But then something went quiet. Venus Kiss 21 vanished. The forum shut down overnight. One by one, IP addresses dropped. Every breadcrumb dissolved. The network erased itself, as if it knew it had been spotted. All that remained were bodies, and silence. But not everyone stayed gone. 2 months later, a man in Detroit reported being approached by a stunning woman in a red dress at a jazz club. She called herself Jordan. Said she was a writer. Flirted with him for hours. But when he excused himself to the bathroom, she disappeared. No trace. His bartender later described her: caramel skin, coily hair, scar near the lip. The same sketch released in the Marcus Bell case. Another sighting came from New Orleans. A woman in red sitting alone at a bar, sipping wine, leaving behind a single napkin with the words, "He said sorry, but he still hit me." No camera footage. Just rumors. Whispers. By the end of the investigation, 5 bodies were officially linked. Authorities believe there could be dozens more, unexplained deaths filed as natural causes, suicides, or freak accidents. All potentially orchestrated by the Black Widow Network. But without more digital evidence or a willing witness, the case hit a wall. And Janelle? She's become an urban legend. The woman in red. Some say she was killed by her own group after disobeying a command. Others say she's living abroad, hidden in plain sight, recruiting new disciples. One detective swears he saw her reflection in a window during a different investigation. Another claims she walked past him at an airport, winked, and kept walking. But no arrests. No convictions. Just a trail of grief, seduction, and perfectly timed vanishing acts. Some believe the Black Widow network disbanded. Others believe it evolved, deeper underground, more careful, waiting for the next name to be whispered into their forum. And the truth? Men still die. Still smile in their sleep. And somewhere, someone still wears red.